Hey, Myles here and Dutch at Tactical Hyve, and we just finished over the weekend a class on shooting on the move. And it was cool to see students learning. The whole idea is to get them more comfortable with moving and shooting. Most people, would you agree, Dutch? They begin to shoot and move, but then they end up moving really slow, or they kind of stop.
No, I think it's right, and we saw this over the weekend. A lot of folks are intimidated by shooting on the move, right? And they don't know, what do I really need to do here?
Yeah.
And so, they just either stop and take those shots, or it's just difficult for them to complete the mission. Yep.
So we decided to create this short video to share 3 tips on shooting on the move. So if you're interested, make sure to stay tuned. All right, welcome back. So the first tip is to be target focused. We've talked about this a lot in our videos. We've created videos on this, but we want to drive in the point as to why it's so important when shooting on the move. Dutch, do you want to start or want me to start?
Target focus is key. I want you to start here, but I just want to chime in with quick 2 cents. The distances that we're talking about, I think target focused and training has been lost anyway. I'm glad we're getting back to it. I see folks in the community getting back to it, but target focus is key here. And then knowing, of course, we're going to talk about other things, but let's start with that, target focus.
So as Dutch was saying, target focus shooting and training is happening more often than it has in the previous years for whatever reason. Maybe it's people like us advocating it more, but that's a great thing. And it really comes in handy when shooting on the move, because a lot of people we've noticed when they're shooting on the move, if you're paying attention to your dot, most people are going to be shooting dots. These days irons are going out of style, but it could be the front sight if you shoot irons. But if people are focusing on that, they tend to miss because they can't time their shots right. So if this was the target and this is the dot, they're focusing on the dot so often they don't really understand when it's on the target, and they're taking shots sometimes randomly, or they can't time it as well because they're not paying attention to a small spot on the target, so they begin to miss more.
Yeah, roger that. On top of that, so if we were focusing on that dot, trying to find it, we've seen that debacle over and over again. We're trying to find that dot, make sure it's on there, and then we're not really paying attention to where our finger is on the trigger wall. I'm a big believer in not having my finger outside of the trigger well, or even inside the trigger well, but not on the trigger. I'm a big fan of constant tension or constant touching with my finger on that trigger, and I want to find where that wall is. And then along with that is this over confirmation. So they're not getting that it's perfect, right? And I think they want that. I think probably from static range, or really not having the leadership to tell them, hey, let it go, right? Because once that dot's on there, and once you're on the wall, you let that trigger go, right? Pull that hammer, and it's not, no matter what your rifle or pistol is doing, it's not going to change the trajectory of that projectile. It's not, you can't do it anymore, right? Once it's gone, right? It's gone, right? So believe in yourself, get that dot where it needs to be, whether it's a rifle with hold off or a pistol with no hold off, either way. But live on that wall, that trigger, fire that weapon, and just let it go, right? And then come right back to it, and believe in yourself to put that dot where it needs to be, and fire the rifle.
Absolutely. So the first tip was, again, would be target focus, and Dutch just kind of segued into the second tip, which is kind of living on that wall. And we've talked about this too. There's no universal term for it, having a prep trigger, because you could be on the wall, but perhaps there's still a lot, depending on your trigger. You might have a lot of slack left on your trigger. But what we're trying to say is get to that point where if you even blow on that trigger, the shot's going to break. And just to emphasize why that's so important, when we're shooting and moving, that dot is moving all over the place, especially if you're moving fast or you're not really trained well in shooting on the move. As this dot moves really fast, if you are on the wall, as Dutch has mentioned, when you want the shot to break, let's say that dot is passing the middle of the target and you want that shot to break, your mind says now. If you're on the wall, it will break now. Whereas if you say shoot now and you have all that slack still, the dot might move over here and you break the shot over here. So then you're missing the target. So that is kind of the main reason why, live on the wall. Would you agree?
100%. Live on that wall, man. And, when we do stationary target transitions, if you wanted to go quickly, for instance, I do as many consecutive shots to 2 different steel targets farther away from you in a 10-second par time. And if you can what happens is when you're watching that dot, you're almost ambushing, right? Because as soon as that dot's there, you need to break that trigger, get on the wall and break that trigger. And just like Myles mentioned, triggers are different. We all know that. So a stock Glock trigger is different from a stock SIG trigger. It's certainly different from a stock hammer fired gun.
Yeah.
So what you were on a CZ, right?
Yeah.
The 1911s, 2011s, these hammer fired guns, staccatos, etc. That's a different trigger, right? And it's sometimes more crisp. But either way, right? Learn where that trigger system is on that wall, whether it's rifle or pistol. And in the end, quite often you may be ambushing, just as you said. So you may be seeing that figure 8 roll into that target, then you're gonna have to ambush before it gets there because you don't have much time.
Yep.
Because it's gonna move, and you know that because you just can't help it to move, right? Your body's moving, you're moving. Do you have a good connection with your rifle? Sure, doesn't matter. Do you have a good grip on your pistol? Doesn't matter. It's going to move, right? It's physics.
Before we get to tip number 3, we want to thank Laser Ammo for bringing you today's video. If you guys are looking for a way to really make your dry fire fun and even more realistic, check out all their products. They are the world leader in laser training products. They have a lot of different things. So from laser cartridges to laser pistols to smokeless ranges. And again, it just makes things more fun, enjoyable. And if it is fun and enjoyable, you're going to practice more. So check them out in the description below. And the third tip we have has to kind of deal with what really is shooting on the move about. It's, a lot of people teach techniques, but at the end of the day, you're not really waiting for a particular footing. Like the target will dictate when you take the shot, or where your vision is going to dictate when the dot or your iron sight is on the target, and then you break the shot. So it's getting used to that moving dot and then breaking the trigger. Of course, everything else matters, but if you would know much more than I do. Like if you're in an actual real gunfight, you're not worrying about how the footing of your feet, if it was exactly, if it was exactly like this or like that. In competition, it's a controlled environment, you're not taking fire. So perhaps, yes, you can get away with certain things, and there are certain techniques that would work definitely in competition that may not in real life, again, because you don't have that time and stuff like that to think about it. So what I think is most important is understanding the movement of your dot and when to break that shot. So the third tip is something that we covered in class, and that's the figure 8 drill. This is the beauty of this drill, is you can do it static. This is just the baby step to shooting on the move. So it is not about the actual movement yet. It's just more about your vision and when you break the trigger. So all you're doing is, if this was the target, you are manually moving your rifle or pistol in a figure 8 shape here, and waiting for that dot to overlay the target. Then you break the shot when it's in an acceptable range. And just kind of like what Dutch was saying, you are ambushing. So again, waiting, take the shot, waiting, take the shot. And that's going to mimic what you're probably going to see when you're actually moving and shooting.
Yeah, so in addition to that, right, I think it's a fantastic drill when you're stationary doing that. Also, we took the shooters, go ahead and walk forward, stick your rifle up there, and then watch what happens as you move, right? And it's a dry run, but you watch what happens as you move. See what that dot does. Some folks don't see a figure 8 necessarily. Some folks see it bouncing up and down or whatever it might be. So that's what we want you to do too, right? Get in that dry fire mode where you can walk forward in a natural pace and see what your dot's doing while you're moving.
So those are 3 simple tips that you guys can try to help improve your shooting on the move. They really help the students over the weekend, and we think they'll help you. As always, guys, if you liked the video, give us a thumbs up. Let us know what you thought in the comments below, and smash that subscribe button. See you guys next time.